Srinivasa Ramanujan was one of the most remarkable mathematicians of 20th century. Even today, we don't know how he got many of his results. His notebooks are full of enigmatic theories and formulas that will keep mathematicians busy for many years to come. Ramanujan was born in 1987 in Erode, Madras state, now known as Tamil Nadu, India, into a working class family. By the age of 11, he encountered formal maths in school for the first time. It was clear that Ramanujan was operating on a different plane than his peers. In his early teens, he quickly mastered new concepts and won a string of academic awards. In 1903, as a 16-year-old, he obtained a library copy of a book called Synopsis of Elementary Results. Despite the title, Ramanujan was not content simply to absorb the contents of the book. Instead, he set about deriving all the results himself with no outside help in the process. And he came up with a wealth of extraordinary conclusions that seemed to spring from nowhere. This most incredible creativity became a hallmark of Ramanujan's work until the end of his life, when he attributed all of his major insights and discoveries to the divine source, the goddess Namagiri, who is said to appear to him in his visions and dreams. He attempted to prove the conclusions that he had received in these visions and dreams, but the arguments were very frequently unconvincing. After one of these experiences, he wrote, "While asleep, I had an unusual experience. There was a red screen formed by a flowing blood, as it were. I was observing it. Suddenly, a hand began to write on the screen. I became all attention. That hand wrote a number of results in elliptical integrals. They stuck on my mind. As soon as I woke up, I committed to writing them." Working in his spare time, while employed as a menial clerk in Madras, now Chennai, Ramanujan made a new and profound discoveries in number theory, or unknowingly discover results that had taken mathematicians in the West centuries to obtain. Even when he came to conclusions that were already known, he frequently did it so in total original way that what seemed pure intuition. Hardy invited Ramanujan to join him and his close colleague John Littlewood at Cambridge. But it wasn't an easy decision for Ramanujan, as he would have to leave his family behind, his 13-year-old wife, which he got by arranged marriage. As far as Ramanujan theories on obtaining fractions, he said that he had never seen anything in the least like them before. At first, Ramanujan's mother was adamantly opposed to him moving away from the way of life he was accustomed to and losing his Brahmin status, because it was frowned upon for people of the caste to travel across the ocean. However, 3 months later, she gave in, and claiming that Namagiri told her not to stand in her way of her son, Ramanujan set sail abroad, the SS Nevasa boat, bringing with him with a suitcase stuffed with full of notebooks containing mathematical gems he would unearthen over the years in England. Ramanujan faced numerous challenges in his life, including the cold and damp weather, an unfamiliar culture, and a poor proficiency in the local language. Additionally, his adherence to strictly vegetarian diet in accordance with Brahmin principle required him to prepare his own meals, which he did sporadically. With the outbreak of the World War I in 1914, he was unable to access some of his customary meals, which led to malnourishment. However, despite these difficulties, Ramanujan was fortunate to have Hardy as a brilliant teacher who dedicatedly filled in some of the gaps in his mathematical knowledge, without undermining his confidence or natural freedom of thought. According to Hardy, Ramanujan's knowledge was both impressive in its depth and surprising in its limitations. It was clear that Ramanujans couldn't be asked to undergo systematic instructions and start from the beginning to learn mathematics. However, there were certain things that he couldn't remain ignorant of, so Hardy took on the task of teaching him. While Hardy did succeed to some extent, it was clear that he learned much more from Ramanujan than the other way around. This went on for nearly 3 years. Despite facing significant challenges and adapting to his new surroundings, Ramanujan excelled academically in collaboration with Hardy, who played a crucial role in refining his proofs and presentations. Ramanujan went on to publish several important papers, and filmmakers Matthew Brown, who directed The Man Who Knew Infinity in 2015, was captivated by the dynamic between Ramanujan and Hardy. The two men were vastly different. Ramanujan was a Brahmin Indian from Madras with no formal education, who believed that a formula was meaningless until it expressed a thought of God. In contrast, Hardy was a respected professor at a prestigious Trinity College, Cambridge University, and an avowed atheist. The story of how these two individuals overcome their personal difference to establish one of the most significant collaborations in the history of mathematics is truly remarkable. In spring of 1917, Ramanujan fell severely ill, possibly due to tuberculosis, and he remained in and out of hospitals for the rest of his time in England. During one of his hospital stays, Hardy visited him and noticed that the cab number was 1729. Hardy remarked that it was a dull number, but Ramanujan quickly corrected him and explained that it was actually a quite interesting number. It was the smallest number that could be expressed as the sum of two cubes in two different ways. 1729 equals to 1 raised to power 3 plus 12 raised to power 3, also equal to 9 raised to power 3 plus 10 raised to power 3. In 1919, Ramanujan recovered enough to travel back to India, where it was hoped that more familiar climate and food would aid in his recovery. Unfortunately, he passed away the following year. At the height of his mathematical powers at the young age of just 32, Ramanujan was praised as the mathematician of the highest quality by Hardy in his obituary. Hardy described him as a man of exceptional originality and power. In terms of mathematical ability, on a personal scale, he rated himself modestly at 25, while his colleague John Little scored 30. David Hilbert, the most renowned mathematician of the time, scored 80. Ramanujan was rated at 100. Even today, researchers continue to study the disorganized but fascinating notebooks that Ramanujan left behind in the search of new discoveries. Some of his final work on the subject called Mach theta functions, which he left unfinished, which is now proved to be important in physics of black holes and string theory, more than 8 years after his death. In most cases, scholars are still trying to comprehend how Ramanujan arrived at this result and what implications they might have for the future of mathematics. Remember, great knowledge always comes from the humblest of origins. Keep exploring and expanding your mind.